I don't want to say this. This is the Chinese simplification.
It's Husk Japan. It's weird that it has Chinese on it.
Yeah.
Japanese knives. Japanese knives are great. We love Japanese knives because often they're handmade, if not hand forged. They tend to be super sharp and keep their edge for a really long time, and they're beautiful, right? Japanese knives have got pretty popular in the last several years.
Yeah.
If you're, shopping online, you've probably seen a lot of different companies, brands, and different price points too. And so you may be at the point where maybe you're a little confused and unsure if, you're getting what it says on the box. So today, Naoto and I are here. We're experts, more or less, and we're gonna compare some knives that we know are from Japan, that, you've been there, you've sourced them yourself, to some knives that we suspect may not be Japanese, point out some differences, some potential red flags to look for when you're shopping online, and hopefully help you find the right knife.
Disclaimer, we are a Japanese knife store, so we're pretty biased. But we have expertise and we have knowledge to help you find the qualities for the good kitchen knives.
Yeah, I've been working at Knifewear with knives for 10 years, as a chef before that for about 5 years. You've been around at Knifewear longer and have gone to Japan, right?
I've been to Japan a few times. I've met pretty much all the knife makers that we deal with, including those two.
Yeah, more than 50, right? And you've met pretty much all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we often have people asking us, like, how do I know this knife I'm buying from you is actually made in Japan? Or they might send us like a link to, an Amazon set of 5 Damascus knives, like $200, crazy deal, and say, hey, I'm looking for something like this at this price point. And so, yeah, we got some stuff that we found online that's been advertised to us before, and we got a couple of our knives, and we're gonna do a little side by side, see if we can spot the differences. Okay, so first up, if you've ever put the word knife into the Google search bar, you have seen an ad for these guys. They make some bold claims. Sharpest knife in the world.
Well, I mean, definitely, it says on a box.
Yeah. We created the most exceptional kitchen knife the world has ever seen. That's bold.
Yeah, it's very bold. Yeah.
Have we ever said that?
No.
I'm impressed. Yeah, their videos their advertising is pretty intense. I think they said their knife was banned, but millions of people signed the petition to bring it back. It's a big claim. Yeah. Let's find out. Yeah. So I went on the Husk website to buy a knife. I've seen them for years. They had a 70% off sale that you sent me.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I can't pass up that opportunity. And that was one thing. Like, I was surprised that they were able to give 70% off. That's a pretty hefty discount.
Yeah.
Let's take a look around their website. There were a couple things that surprised me. First off, they have a picture of a Japanese blacksmith, which is like a great sign. Hey, these knives are made by a Japanese guy who's a blacksmith. Awesome. But then Naoto pointed out,
well, that was the Doi-san from Sakai Takayuki.
Right.
And it was basically the picture from the Sakai Takayuki website. So,
right. And so he doesn't make these knives?
No.
Okay.
No.
Right, yeah, no. We visited Doi-san a couple months ago.
Yeah, we did.
He also doesn't make knives that retail for, under $100 really. He makes stuff that's up here, very fancy knives. There's also a photo of a knife being forged with the signature hole that you'll see soon, punched in the blade, but that just wouldn't happen at that process in the forging because the hole would deform. And then there were some very expertly photoshopped photos of chefs holding, stock photos of chefs holding their knives. So that's not to say that doesn't mean this knife isn't made in Japan, but a little bit suspect. So I went, bought the knife, put in the credit card info, and then I got a surprise offer. I could buy a leather sheath for the knife, which I declined. I didn't really feel like we needed that for this video. And then I got another surprise offer. You could buy a Santoku at 70% off, which, we only needed one knife, so I didn't buy that. And then I got another surprise offer. There was a tool for honing the knife, and then another one for, I think there were 7 surprise offers in total. Sharpening stones, sheaths, like just everything under the sun. Add-on sales. That's a good thing for a business to do. I declined. Got the knife, got the order in, awesome. And then Naoto came to my office with a phone.
Oh, yeah. We got a phone call from asking for Nathan.
Yeah. I went, oh no, the gig's up. they saw my email address and they know I'm from Knifewear. No, they were just calling to make sure that I definitely didn't want that leather sheath and the Santoku and the sharpening stones. And then they even asked me if I wanted to buy a memory foam pillow, which, was a generous offer. Great deal. I think it was like $40 or something. Great deal. But I didn't need a memory foam pillow at that moment in time. Little surprising to see a knife company selling pillows. Maybe we should consider that. Might be a good, avenue. Diversify our portfolio. But all these things were just a little, kind of set off some alarms in my brain. I also, when I got the order confirmation, I also noticed the office was in Lithuania, which, we're in Canada. We sell Japanese knives. So I don't know if that means anything, but it was worth noting. So let's unbox this sucker. We did open it up already when it got here. Oh, blacksmith heritage at your fingertips. Wow. 138 steps over 2 months to be made before going through rigorous testing. Wow. I do like this box. This little magnetic box is pretty sweet. World's first ever premium control kitchen knife. All right, let's take this baby out. Check it out, Naoto.
Yo.
Protective tip. You don't want to
Yep.
cut yourself.
It's got a hole here.
It's pretty cool.
For, I guess.
Yeah, cowboy.
I guess it's for the balancing spot, maybe. Balance spot is right here, by the way, and it's a little bit more handle heavy.
So from what I can tell, now this is an interesting thing. There's no claim specifically that it's made from a blacksmith. It's heavily implied by photos of like, a hammer hitting steel, which is good marketing. A photo of Doisan on the front page of their website. Stemming from Japanese inspired techniques. I like that, Japanese inspired techniques and time proven blacksmith traditions. It's implied. It's the implication.
There's even the brand ambassador named the Miyahara Haruhiko.
And it does say Husk Japan on the website, which I found interesting because they are based in, I think, Lithuania.
Alrighty.
All right. So first impressions on the knife. Like what are we looking at? The technical specs that might tip us off as to maybe how it's made. Is there much you can glean from just eyesight?
From the look of it, it's a knife. It's got an edge.
It's good.
Yeah, it's a knife. It's got the edge.
I didn't get scammed.
It's got a bevel. It's got a handle. It's got 3 rivets here. Some people do definitely prefer the 3 riveted handle.
Yeah, that's just a personal preference thing. Yeah,
like that. It's got a very interesting, unique shape to it. Something that I noticed really quick is that though the bevel is really concaved. Like it's got a really
very hollow ground.
Hollow ground here. It doesn't mean it's a bad knife or anything, like the really thin knives, knives, not the straight razors of hollow grind too, right?
Yeah, so it's gonna make the edge sharper but a little more delicate. Yeah. Okay, so Naoto's found some green flags, some good signs here.
So the on a sleeve, I guess on sleeve for the box, it says what material it is actually made out of. It says stainless steel, and in the blackette they says 420 J2.
Okay.
You know what the 420 J2 is? It's not the 420 that you may think of.
Okay, so what's 420 J2?
So 420 J2 is actually really popular steel in Japan.
Okay.
When I went to visit the factories, steel factories in Seki, I saw a lot of 420 J2 steels. You know what they were used for?
Nice. Okay.
A lot of them are actually used for scissors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Comparatively speaking, 420 J2 is very soft steel.
Okay.
It won't get as hard. That's one of the reasons why they made it a little bit thicker. I think.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't bend as easy.
Okay, so it's a softer steel. It's going to be more durable, but it's not going to have the edge retention or the ability to keep a super sharp edge the way that we think of a Japanese knife.
No.
Yeah. How's the edge on it?
It doesn't come my skin yet, so.
Oh, good.
Well,
it's a very safe knife then.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, you say it's not sharp, but I was spinning it around my finger like a cowboy earlier, and I cut myself pretty bad.
Oh, you did? I mean,
I think it's pretty sharp.
Yeah. This is not the test that you want to do actually on your on your knife.
Yeah.
on your hand.
We are going to test all of these in a bit. We've got a few test devices to kind of just test the performance side by side. Okay, well, let's move on to the next one. So the next one was a company that you pointed out to me. Another company that we see a lot of ads for. Another company that we see making some pretty bold claims. And that's maybe going to be a common theme here for some of the knives we're talking about. I think I've got some here. Japanese master chef knife, the world's sharpest chef knife ever made, 100% guaranteed. Yeah.
Sounds familiar though.
Sounds familiar? Yeah. It's gonna be perfectly well balanced. Well, perfectly balanced is kind of a dubious term because it doesn't really mean anything.
No, not
right?
really.
Yeah. 15-degree blade angle. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's something we say. Well, most Western style knives have 25-degree edge. These are more acute 15-degree, noticeably sharper cutting. Here we go. They also are pretty transparent about the steel they use, which is a good sign. 7CR17, high carbon steel, strong corrosion resistance and durable. Damascus distinctly etched blade.
Phrasing is very interesting.
Yeah. So, okay, so what are the specs? 58 Rockwell hardness. So on the softer side of Japanese knives. Hardness is just one of the things that can help determine edge retention. Are your knives made by a Japanese blacksmith? Yes. So here's a definitive claim. Artisan knives are traditionally crafted by our expert blacksmiths with a combined 100 years of experience. We only use premium materials. Our Damascus edge knives are specifically handcrafted, blah, blah, blah. Which is a big thing to say, right? Yep. So let's take a look.
Kind of nice box. It's being cut out to fit the blade perfectly, I think.
Great packaging.
Almost, yeah. It's pretty light for what it is.
Big difference to the husk knife, right? Much thinner.
See the balance point?
Yeah.
The perfectly balanced is a very weird term because anything has to be a balance.
It's like saying this car is fast.
Yeah.
Good, I hope so.
Exactly. It doesn't really say, where balance is or how,
or why that matters, right?
Yeah, exactly.
At the end of the day, some people like a heavier handled knife, some people like more weight in the blade. It's personal preference.
Yeah.
Now, these guys, I couldn't find any photos of any specific craftsmen. So that was one thing when I was doing my sleuthing earlier that did surprise me. I'm gonna toot our own horn for a sec. On all of the knives that we get, if they're made by a blacksmith, we say who it's made by. With a few exceptions, there are some that we get that are from distributors where they don't want to say who makes it. But most of the knives we carry, and this is true of pretty much any legit Japanese knife seller, is they're gonna say who makes the knife. Because that's, people care about that. Now one thing I noticed was the term Damascus etched, because Damascus knives are real hot. What can you tell me about that? Just first impressions.
When I look at this very closely, what I notice is that it's assurance of that the vague terminology that they used. Damascus etched.
We have knives that are etched with acid, right? To give a Damascus
So
edge.
generally speaking, Damascus steel, well, it is not really a Damascus steel. Damascus steel, from our definition, is that it is made with multiple different layers of steel.
That's kind of the colloquial term in the knife world these days.
It is basically layers of steel. This one here, when you actually look close,
it looks kind of pixelated.
Exactly, right? It is exactly what it says on the description. It is etched to make those lines.
So there's no different layers going on.
No.
Okay.
This one here, it's almost like the same as the razor engraving.
Right, yeah. Do you think they would have done that with a laser then?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably.
Right, so it's etched with a laser. Whereas like we carry some etched Damascus knives, but they're actual layers of steel and then they etch it to bring the pattern out with
Exactly. They're etching. It's, I guess, like etching can mean a lot of stuff, right? The
engraved Damascus might be a more accurate term.
Yeah. Basically, it's been drawn on the blade.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
If you are a first-time buyer and you just don't know anything about knives, as most people don't when they're beginners, you might look at that and you might see the word etched Damascus and not really know what that means. We get customers asking us all the time, is this Damascus etched? And my answer is, well, yes, but yes, but it is actually layered because that's often what they're asking. Yeah,
layers are more for aesthetic than anything else.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really tell you the quality of the knives.
It tells you more about how it was made. But
exactly, right? Like, it doesn't really affect any of the quality.
Let's pull out a couple of knives that we know are Japanese for a fact because we've gone and seen them being made and we've been dealing with these people for 15 years. And let's kind of do a little side by side here. How about we pull out a knife that is layered, for starters.
Awesome. So this one here, Haruyuki Goma, VG10 stainless steel in the core. It's got the multiple layer of Damascus on the layers of steel on the outside, make it look really, really nice.
And is there anything you can, if you were looking at that knife online, how would you be able to tell that it's real layers?
It may be a little bit more difficult by especially just looking at the pictures. You may need the, not a trained eyes, but something that you kind of need to be used to seeing the a lot of layered Damascus.
But you could, I mean, you could reach out to somebody and ask them, hey, is this layered or is this laser drawn?
I mean, we will be probably able to tell.
Yeah.
If someone asks us question, hey, if this is, we should be able to tell.
What about the edge? Is there anything you see at the edge, or how about the, we often pick up the knife and kind of feel it?
Definitely the thickness, you can definitely feel the really big difference. They sharpen this goma into really, really thin edge right here. We call it the, thin behind the edge too, right? So this is really thin, that leaves a little bit thickness behind as well.
And why that matters or makes a difference is because the edge isn't the only part of the knife doing the work. Once you get into like a potato, the steel behind the edge is going to affect how smooth it feels. Often, most Japanese knives that we get have a thinner feeling.
Absolutely,
right? Area behind the edge. Let's bust out one that we know for a fact is handmade. This is from Moritaka Hamono. They've been operating for over 700 years, almost 730. Is that this year?
The
1293 was their first year.
Yeah,
so they're having their 730th anniversary this year.
Oh, yeah, 1293,
yeah. So this, if you think of like, now there's handmade, right? The Haryuki and quite possibly these as well, forged by hand or forged by machine, but there's a lot of work done by hand to finish it and sharpen it and stuff. This is hand forged. So if you think about a handmade Japanese knife, this is probably where your mind's going right off the bat. Guy hitting a steel with a hammer, and this is how they make it. Yeah,
and like really, this is as handmade as it could get, because they operate out of the this small workshop,
family home.
Yeah, next to the house. Yeah, and I think 3 guys, like the uncle, son, and uncle's son. I think the 3 guys are working together to make blades. They do pretty much everything from start to finish, because they kind of located in this remote area. So they do forge weld, they do shape, they do sharpen. They actually have the stainless tang, so they actually weld the tang in house. I think only thing that's not from that particular workshop is they buy handles.
Right. I think that's fair. I think it's a fair concession.
They're blacksmiths.
Well, Kevin and Owen were there just a couple months ago, and Owen got to forge a knife in their forge. So about as close and about as hands-on as you can get to knife making.
One of the indication, it's not everything, but one of the indication is that a lot of blacksmiths, when they are forging, they try to make the almost like a 3D shape.
Okay.
What that means is that they're not just
like 2 parallel pieces of steel.
Exactly. They're not just like hammer into the sheet of steel has both ends same thickness, right? They try to make it a knife, right? So it's got a little bit of 3D shape. So this particular one, if you look from the spine, it's got a little bit thicker where it attached to the handle, and it tapers it this way.
Okay.
Right.
Cool. Yeah, because you want the tip to be more precise and the heel to be a little more strong, right?
Exactly. Let's take a look at this
guy. Yeah. So I'm not seeing any taper. Like obviously it sharpens off at the tip, but it looks like it's the same thickness all the way along.
Yeah. Despite the fact it's got the little hammer marks, it's pretty much the same thickness all along. I mean, if you look here, this has got the hammer patterns on the blade as well. But this one is what we considered as the machine forged blade. And how they get this pattern is that they puts this sheet of steel underneath of this, almost like a punch machine. Yeah. Right? Right. With the texture. Right. Presses the hammer pattern into the blade.
So that'd be done probably a similar
Probably, I would assume so.
Again, we can't say whether one is made a certain way because we haven't been to their factory and seen how they're made. But these are some indicators that you can definitely look for. Some of them are tougher if you're buying online, but if you're shopping in person, these are definitely some things to look for. Let's try them out. See how they cut.
Awesome.
Because that's really what matters, right? These are kitchen knives. We're not going to do like edge retention tests. I did mean to take this guy home and use it for a couple weeks, and I forgot. So we're just going to try them for the first time. I want to try out a tomato.
Tomatoes, yeah.
I haven't tried these guys yet, so I'm excited to try them.
Alrighty.
So just slicing in. It feels pretty sharp. Now, knives always work better by sliding, so even a relatively dull knife. Definitely doesn't work by pushing. It's not sharp enough to just like push straight through, which is like, the cuts look relatively clean. It's a little, maybe a touch bruised up around the cut. Let's compare that to the Sato. Yeah, the Sato feels a bit smoother for sure. Yeah. It's definitely, it struggles a bit, like it fights a bit before it gets in. Let's try. Yeah, so when I try to do really fine cutting, it starts to fight a little bit. Okay, but still, you know, most people would say that's pretty sharp, right?
Right.
If you're not a Japanese knife nerd, you would probably say, hey, it's a pretty sharp knife, sharper than my knife set. And really what we're seeing here is how easily it bites into the skin of a tomato, because that's the thing that, you know, almost every knife fights with is a tomato. That's how you know your knives need to be sharpened. That's what we tell customers is, hey, how do I know when my knife's dull? Well, if it sucks cutting tomatoes, get it sharpened.
It did have the struggle at the tip, so I started from the tip, and yes, it doesn't really cut into it as much.
Yeah, the tips on both of them seem a little lackluster, like not.
It does have the edge. Definitely, Sato has better, like smoother edge than the Hask does. I found especially when I'm actually trying to use it, this is way too much of an angle. I think the hole
it's very cool looking, but it's not
Yeah.
functionally or like comfortable to use.
Yeah, I think hole is really meant to, actually, I think put your index finger in, but
No, you gotta spin it around like a cowboy.
yeah.
don't do that. I cut myself doing that. Don't.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it's like when you try to utilize or use the tip, put the tip on the cutting board, I have to, you know,
Yeah, I've already got
raise it
carpal
up
tunnel.
quite a
That's not
bit.
gonna
And
make it any better.
These guys here, it definitely has the little thinner, like it feels, because
It
it's
glides.
thinner. Yeah, it glides a little
Yeah.
bit nicer actually. You can feel them in hand, like it glides them nicer. It almost feels like the knife wants to actually glide in and falls into the cutting board.
Yeah, one of the things when you go into a Knifewear shop is you have to try a knife.
Yeah.
It's the rule. And this is the kind of cut that makes people say, holy bananas.
So that's really the big, I guess, really the difference here. You can tell thinness as well as a slight difference on the smoothness of the edge.
And it's because of the harder steel, largely, that it can be ground that thin.
Yeah, exactly.
And maintain that edge without just, you know, dulling quickly. Okay, let's try the carrot.
Yeah, I try to cut in the same kind of thickness, like say half inch.
Yeah.
Half inch
And a
thick,
carrot's
yeah.
a good test because it's dense.
Yeah.
Right, and that's where thin knives excel and thick knives struggle a lot.
Okay, I'm gonna try. This is about a half inch thickness here. Yep. Oh, it doesn't even cut straight. Okay. So as you could hear,
you can hear it fighting. You can hear a lot of friction.
Yeah.
And a smack when it hits the
wanna
cutting
give it a
board.
try?
Yeah, I do. Oh yeah. You know, it's like when you get your knife jammed up in a squash, and the cut is very rough. This may not mean anything to you right at this moment, but in a sec you'll see the big difference here. Okay, so that's.
let's try Sato. Even with the little thinner blades like this, I'm gonna actually try the half inch. It goes in like this way.
Yeah, it sinks
but
in well.
it kind of stops right here,
Yep.
and I have to put pressure, and halfway it breaks.
Yeah,
But
you can see at the bottom it's like split like a log.
yeah, I can still cut straight. The other one, I struggle quite a bit to cut straight. Right? So still better than the other knife to cut the carrots with.
It feels a lot like the Henkels that I have at home, which is a great knife, definitely on the durable side, but doesn't fly, you know.
Yeah.
Still a little tricky to get that really consistent.
May actually have a little bit of advantage of making this julienne cut, although it does still, it kind of sticks.
Still seizing up.
Yeah. I have to push it now
Right.
to make a cut. The Haruki Goma, I guess I'm just gonna try another half-inch cut. Oh yeah, it's you can tell the so you don't hear that the breakage, like at the end a little bit.
Yeah, there's no crack at the end.
Not crack at the end. It is pretty smooth. When you're pushing it too hard and finally it breaks, it releases all the force that you put on the knife and hits on the cutting board. One, it's gonna dull your knife faster because it hits the cutting board faster, or
Harder.
it hits the cutting board harder, but also it's dangerous.
Yeah, you don't want your knife to be like speeding through what you're doing.
Exactly,
especially if you're, home cooked. For me, that makes a lot of sense because I grew up with a lot of family members who are afraid of knives, like straight up scared of them, because they had to fight with them, right? And so when a knife feels dangerous and feels like it's like jerking, you're gonna get scared of it and you're gonna cut yourself. And so for me, and for a lot of our customers, they're like, oh, I cook so much more now. It's because the cutting feels easier. It just feels effortless, and you don't feel like you need to buy pre-cut vegetables because it's actually fun, right? It's not a battle. Yeah.
It's one of the things that the kind of give people a wrong idea, I guess, is that the both knives that we were testing out, it still cuts the tomato pretty good, right? And they feel that this is how the sharp knives should cut. And when they try to cut something a little bit different, like dense veggies, like these guys, they'll have to struggle still, right? So that gives you a little bit of wrong idea, as well as the puts them not in danger, but it's not the safest way.
Right.
That's not the safest knife.
Totally.
Right?
To sum up, can we tell you that some of these knives aren't made in Japan? No, we can't say that. So maybe they are Japanese knives, but there's some red flags you can look for, some identifiers. Really over-the-top bold claims is one of the easiest ones. I think of a company saying the world's best something, or unless they can really empirically prove it. So like we say, Moritaka, 700 years of tradition, that's a bold claim. But we've been there to visit them, we've seen their ancestral home, there's a whole culture around them locally. So yeah, I think finding bold claims that can be easily proven is one thing to watch out for, maybe. Vague information is another, using terminology that's not super clear. Or also just making claims that are straight up false, or implications that are false, like for example, putting a blacksmith on your website that definitely doesn't make your knives. Something to watch out for. And these are hard things for the average person to, identify necessarily. But building that bigger picture is a way to sway your decision, maybe in the right direction. When you add all those things together, they create a bit of a picture.
Also, the little pricing as well, right? When you look at the husk knives,
70% off.
Yeah, I mean, what I don't know how much we ended up paying
it's
for.
$50 or so.
So yeah, if the knife is made by Doi-san, hand forged. We have the hand forged knives that's actually made by Doi-san and sharpened by Yamatsuka-san. They run anywhere from north of $300. Even the smaller blades. We know how long it's gonna take to make knives, how difficult it is.
Yeah, it's not a fast process. Even our cheapest, from a younger maker like Yukihiro Sakai, our most inexpensive hand-forged knife, I think, is $140 Canadian, roughly, and that's with a more inexpensive Japanese-style handle compared to the riveted. So if I would say if a deal seems too good to be true, there's a very good chance it is. It, is a fair rule to live by. Finding that paper trail, that history online, how they've been in business for a long time. Can you see, their Instagram or their whatever goes back several years? Can you see faces, right? Seeing the person involved in the brand or multiple people involved in the brand hopefully helps to, create a sign of authenticity, or at least trust. Seeing, like we go to Japan every year and we document it on our social media and our blog and our YouTube channel. So you can see that, right? You can see that, that's not a deep fake. We have been in Japan visiting them. That's just, again, one of the positive indicators, right? It's the same thing. No one indicator is going to tell you, oh, these knives are definitely from Japan. But getting in touch and talking with the company, chatting with us online, looking at our history and our engagement with these folks, more realistic price points for something that's handmade.
Yeah, there are a lot of, you know, made in Japan knives that are inexpensive as well. Don't get me wrong, like not all Japanese knives are expensive. How it's claimed, it can be true, right? How it's claimed to be like made by blacksmith, hand forged, and all that claims all adds up in the price. Like we do have, say, the made in Japan Shizu Morinoki series. That's like, you know, the south of $100.
Yeah, totally.
And they are good.
Yeah, they're great. They're not, you know, hand forged, but they're good, reliable knives. And you know, if you're just looking for a good knife, doesn't matter as much, right? If you're looking for just a decent beginner knife, but if you're looking for a Japanese knife, you want to hopefully make sure it's made in Japan.
Again, we don't claim that Morinoki is forged by this guy.
No, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We say, hey, this is forged by a machine. Maybe some of the work's done by hand. It's a great knife.
Yeah.
If you have more questions about this kind of thing, if you are, you know, looking for Japanese knives and you want to make sure they're made in Japan by a blacksmith, get in touch, right? Ask us questions. If you want to learn more about the folks who do make Japanese knives, we've got some great documentaries and videos from our trips to Japan. We hope we helped you be a little more internet literate today. Thanks for watching.
Well, thanks for watching.